In the early 90s, Mainframe Entertainment, an American-Canadian production company, had made a name for itself with the groundbreaking and critically acclaimed series Reboot, the first all-CGI television show. During the production of its second season, the company were contacted by toy giant Hasbro, who wanted them to create a show based on their flagship property, the Transformers. There hadn't been a new Transformer cartoon for Western audiences since 1987, with its final episodes introducing the Headmaster's toyline.
Headmasters.
The closest there had been to a new series was released in 1992 and was titled Transformers Generation 2. That show was actually the 1987 show, but with an added CGI intro and additional graphics, packaged to tie into the same titled toyline.
Lazy.
In 1996, Mainframe released Beast Wars Transformers, the second fully CG animated television series, serving as the flagship of the Transformers Beast Wars franchise. With an all-new cast of characters, it was produced using the, at the time, state-of-the-art visuals and character models. The Beast Wars follows two warring factions, the Maximals and the Predacons, who we learn are the descendants of the Autobots and the Decepticons. Megatron, the leader of a splinter group of Predacons, is on the hunt for powerful crystals known as Energon by using the Dark Side, a stolen ship which is equipped with a trans-warp drive. Sent to stop them is a small crewed Maximal exploration ship, the Acclaimed, who were the only available forces at the time. Together, the ships plunge through a time-space phenomenon created by the trans-warp device on the Dark Side. Both crash land on a mysterious planet rich in deposits of raw Energon, in such extreme amounts that it proves to be poisonous to both factions' robot forms, forcing them to take on alternate organic forms for protection until their robot forms are needed. Both sides take on the beast forms of recognizable animals, including mammals, birds, dinosaurs, arachnids, and insects. Both sides, limited on resources, begin fighting to secure and denying each other access to the planet's wealth of energon. And so begins the Beast Wars. I am very much a child of the 80s era of animation. Transformers was a huge part of that era, and as with all shows featured in this series, there are specific things I look at in order to determine if they are indeed truly great. Main theme and intro. It's very different. The music is definitely catchy, but kudos to the producers for making the intro unique. The sequence is made up largely from the first episode, quickly conveying the basic story setup, with quick cuts of action featured from later episodes. Story and characters. Before crashing, the Acclaimed deploys its cargo of stasis pods, containing maximal protoforms, Transformer robots with vulnerable and underdeveloped physical forms, which are left to orbit the planet as an alternative to possible destruction in the initial crash landing. Throughout the series, stasis pods lose altitude and crash land on the planet, leading the Maximals and Predacons into a race to locate and very often fight to acquire them, as protoforms acquired by Megatron's forces can be reprogrammed to become Predacons. The Maximals are led by Optimus Primal, who is joined by Rhinox, the chief engineer / team medic, Cheetor, who is young and impetuous, and Rat Trap, who makes no secret of his desire to be anywhere but on this mission. The Predacons are led by Megatron, whose forces consist of Scorponok, Pterosaur, Tarantulas, Waspinator, and Dinobot, who after challenging Megatron for leadership is betrayed by the other Predacons, leading him to change sides. His warrior code and obsession with honor through battle leads to regular tensions with his new Maximal teammates. The earlier mentioned stasis pods are used as a plot device to introduce new characters throughout the series. It becomes apparent that adapting animal forms has a major impact on the personalities of the newer protoforms, leading to some quirky characteristics. Many of the Predacons are self-serving, following their own agendas, often arguing and battling for leadership, which impairs their effectiveness against the Maximals. The two forces operate from their crashed ships, scavenging anything they can, The original Transformers cartoon tended to follow a formula of a device being sought by the Decepticons with the Autobots attempting to deny them it, or a threat which would lead to the introduction of new characters that conveniently were also available in your local toy shop that same week.
It's almost as if they were toy commercials.
These original cartoons did not contain the most intelligent plots or character arcs, often in some cases making very little sense, but there were brief moments in the shows where the writers did manage to add something that stayed with their viewers as they were growing up.
Boy, these are good. Good old Cybertron!
It suddenly occurs to me that this scene may have had a negative impact on my childhood.
Make no mistake, Beast Wars existed to sell toys to children, but the Mainframe team, as well as being pioneers in television animation, included some very talented writers who incorporated elements from the original show's mythology with fresh ideas, using a smartly written, interesting cast of characters. Beast Wars' main writers and executive story editors were Lawrence G. DiTillio and Bob Forward. DiTillio wrote 12 of Beast Wars episodes. His previous work includes writing and executive producing on such shows as Babylon 5, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, the live-action Swamp Thing TV series, and Murder, She Wrote.
How do you get from that to Murder, She Wrote?
He also wrote for both the 1983 and 2002 animated series of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and was offered to work on the 1990 series The New Adventures of He-Man, but he declined because he did not like the premise of the new series, which he felt strayed too far away from the original. Bob Forward wrote 17 episodes of Beast Wars. His previous work as a writer included Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Heroes, X-Men Evolution, SWAT Cats, Biker Mice from Mars, and the 1996 series of The Incredible Hulk. Both would work on comics set in the same continuity of Beast Wars, and would also come together to write an episode of Transformers Animated, which cleverly cameoed the Beast Wars original cast. The show features very clever and sometimes quite adult dialogue. Motivations are clear and logical, and characters do develop on both sides as the story progresses. One of the more intriguing dynamics is a subtle schism between the arachnid elements of the Predacons, acting as a sub-faction. Several mysteries are also set up early on and continue throughout the seasons, and it isn't uncommon for main characters to die, which was very bold for a children's show of that era. Design and style. Elements of Reboot's unique visual style can also be seen here. It may look dated now in comparison to its spiritual successor, Transformers Prime, but Beast Wars' first season cost $18 million to produce. The show had spent most of its budget on the character models, so there wasn't much money to make landscapes. An interesting fact of the first season was the plot element of the standing stones. The reason for this was that Mainframe had a computer model of Stonehenge. The creators decided to include it in the show and see if they could write a story around it. Other ways of saving costs would be to set the stories in rocky terrain or snow-covered grounds. The Mainframe animators initially created animation models for the characters based closely on their toy forms. These included all the faults the toys had, disproportionate body parts, and various excess pieces hanging off their robot forms. The designs gradually changed, and by the finalised versions, some of the characters only very faintly resembles their original action figures. Characters in the show ended up looking far more clean and workable than the toys would have been, although their transformations are wholly unfeasible in most cases. Beast Wars is also the first Transformers show to have won an Emmy. The production designer for the show, Clyde Klotz, won the award for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Animation in 1997. Action. The battle sequences do suffer from dated visuals, but a benefit of the mature storytelling and excellent character design meant that characteristics and quirks gave viewers something else to focus on. Solid direction and a strong focus on quality on their interactions with their environments has kept the show very watchable. Battle scenes are always dynamic and inventive, with cameras placed in varying angles and the weapons employed by the cast are very distinctive. My personal favourite is Rhinox chain guns.
Those are awesome.
Humour also plays a part in the battle scenes, which is a nice way of keeping the action fresh and engaging. Soundtrack. Robert Buckley, who who wrote the score for Reboot, brings a similar style to Beast Wars. Elements of the main theme tune have a strong presence throughout all the episodes. Random fact, the main theme was performed by musicians Leslie West and Joe Lynn Turner. Voice cast. Beast Wars was part of the 90s era of cartoons that really invested in excellent voice talent. Most of the voice cast had previously worked on Dragon Ball Z. In particular of note was Scott McNeil, who voiced Waspinator, Silverbolt, Rat Trap, and Dinobot. But with the casting of new actors in a brand new Transformers cartoon also came the horrendous task of filling the roles for one of the greatest rivalries in television history.
Let me explain this using literature's greatest character.
For fans of Batman depicted in cartoons, nothing will ever match Kevin Conroy as Batman and Mark Hamill as the Joker. Many have tried, and in many cases have done a good job, but they will just never be what is arguably the greatest voice casting of all time. Cartoon character-wise, there is only one other example that has made such an impact on an entire generation, and that is Frank Welker and Peter Cullen, the original voices of Megatron and Optimus Prime. How do you top that? Straight answer, you don't. Which is why it was a stroke of genius to cast veteran voice actor David Kaye and veteran of, well, everything, Gary Chalk. Name it, and he likely has been in it. Chalk had also previously worked on Reboot. Similarities in names aside, these are different characters. Chalk was perfect at conveying a more youthful personality, but a strong leader with noble ideals. However, David Kaye brought a very different approach to Megatron. A cunning genius who is ruthless and also in some ways sadistic and playful. David Kaye injected some very memorable mannerisms into the role that distinctively made it his own. Not originally a fan of Transformers, he ended up loving the part so much that every year Kaye posts his holiday greetings to Transformers fans on YouTube, in which he reads poems or sings songs in Megatron's voice. Give them a watch, they are brilliant. Their popularity would see both actors play different iterations of those characters in the Japanese-produced Transformers Armada and Transformers Energon.
But those are garbage.
3 video games were released as tie-ins to Beast Wars. They would feature near to the entire cast from the series, though sadly none of the releases would be well received by critics or gamers. How meta is it? Throughout the series, there are various texts displayed in Cybertronics, a language developed and used in the Beast Wars saga. These texts spell out various Easter egg messages and some relevant information. The animators were also very fond of making crude jokes that would have been inappropriate for children. Some of these even found their way into the show. It later is revealed that the series was set in the future of the original Transformers cartoon, acting as a sequel to that universe. And a few very popular characters from the original series return, including a drastically changed Ravage and Starscream's ghost. Yes, his ghost. A concept that first appeared in the 80s era cartoon. It doesn't get much more meta than that. Doug Parker, who voiced Pterosaur, voiced Starscream, as sadly the original voice actor Charles Collins had passed away. Beast Wars was also the first to introduce the concepts of the spark, essentially the soul in a Transformer's body. The show is also filled with pop culture references from all aspects of media. Beast Wars ran for 52 episodes over 4 seasons, with a story then continued in its sequel, Beast Machines. When first released, it was not well received by the Transformers fan community.
This is terrible! Terrible! Optimus Prime is not a gorilla!
But it is now held in very high regard, and its influences can be seen in everything, from successor television shows, the comics, and even the Michael Bay movies. 4 Megaminds. Forgive the dated visuals and slow start, and accept it as the toy commercial it is. You will soon be engrossed by its great character and clever storytelling. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then please like and subscribe. Until next time.